Hello, everyone. Let's wait for some more people to come. Let's wait like 5 minutes and then we will start. Could you please write in the attendee chart that you can hear me well? You may send pluses or okay or something. Please, anyone, can you hear me well? Hello, everyone, again. Could you please write in the attendee chat that you can hear me well? Just please write okay or send some pluses in the chat so that we can start the webinar. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Olga Rudnitskaya and I'm legal advisor at Eltoma Corporate Services. It's my pleasure to attend this event today covering banking in Cyprus, Singapore and Hong Kong. We will discuss with you the following topics today. So first of all, we'll discuss the criteria for choosing your bank, corporate bank account opening, and what you need to know for each jurisdiction. How much will it cost to open a corporate bank account, to maintain it, and we will discuss bank transfer fees. We will discuss how to close corporate bank accounts and why actually banks can close your corporate bank account. And if you want to close your corporate bank account, voluntary, what are the best ways to do this, and what is required by the banks. So please take into consideration that there is an opportunity to ask questions, any questions you are interested in during the presentation, and I will revert to you with the responses after the presentation personally to you, or we'll take some time at the end of the presentation to cover all the questions. So let's start. So this slide is showing the main criteria that you would want to consider for a selection of your bank. So amongst main ones are the main banks are the main operational tool for each company. So choosing a bank prior to company formation is highly recommended. The corporate structure and jurisdiction of your company should be in accordance with the requirements of the bank you plan to work with. And a number of banks actually include an analysis of the main features you consider important to help make your final decision. So selecting major factors that are important to you would identify suitable options. For example, European banks are exchanging information within European Union, and every bank has the list of jurisdictions that they are willing to accept. There are lists with restricted countries. For example, Swiss bank CIM will not accept companies registered in classic offshore jurisdictions such as Belize, BVI, or Seychelles, and etc. So remote account opening is available in a very limited pool of banks. For example, in Cyprus, those banks that can provide with high confidentiality barriers would be probably smaller private banks without any credit ratings. Such banks do not like to go public and have any sort of advertising, actually. So summarizing the above, I'd like to say that by identifying in advance important criteria for yourself, you would be able to choose appropriate jurisdiction for your international company, as well as set up appropriate corporate structure to simplify bank account opening process. So the main criteria for choosing a bank are reliability, international credit ratings, liquidity levels and asset growth stability, additional bank services such as merchant accounts, investment services, personal manager, and etc., confidentiality, account maintenance cost, minimum balance requirements, initial deposit requirements, cash withdrawal limits and card transaction limits, and opportunity for remote bank account opening. So I would like to make a conclusion that, for example, Cyprus banks can be named as one of the most attractive and easiest solutions for international business. They manage to combine a lot of positive factors, which we have reviewed before. So the remote bank account opening is a rare option, for example, the last one we discussed. It's a rare option nowadays, and Cyprus banks are still supporting this. Despite from the named clear benefits, I shall mention that an event that has deteriorated from some time Cyprus bank image is bank crisis in Cyprus in 2013. So after review of major criteria for bank selection, I would like to make a conclusion to review the reasons for bank account opening in Cyprus banks, to highlight some positive factors of this. So first of all, Cyprus is an European Union peripheral financial center and is part of the Eurozone banking system. An option to open a bank account remotely using suitability legalized documents. The capitalization of Cyprus banks is increasing. One more positive factor is systematic risk reduction. Maintenance and bank transfers are reasonably priced. There are minimum requirements for average account balances and initial deposits. Actually, you can open an account at no cost, and the quality of banking services and internet banking facilities are pretty high. So let's maybe discuss the bank crisis. Actually, the reason that the image of Cyprus banks actually was spoiled. So the deposits haircut called as bank crisis had short term, but it actually had severe and negative impact on Cyprus' financial reputation. So the reasons for this crisis was as follows. So it's first of all overexposure to Greek government bonds and subsequent losses on haircut on them, over-leveraged local property developers, inability of Cyprus government to borrow on international money market. In addition, there were 10 billion euro secured from Troika, IMF, ECB and EC in exchange to conduct structural reforms in Cyprus economy. And actually, it was a signal to Italy and Spain that the European Union will not rescue their troubled banks. So the deposits haircut during the banking crisis had a short term, and the results were as follows. Like two local banks, Bank of Cyprus and Lake Morphine banks, with the highest exposure to Greek bonds, suffered substantial losses. Lake Morphine Bank was finally dissolved, and uninsured deposits over 100,000 euro were written off. Shares in the Bank of Cyprus were withdrawn with the Cyprus Stock Exchange. Unissued deposits over 100,000 euro were coveted to a second class of shares, and restrictions were imposed on all Cyprus bank accounts. But actually, there were some positive effects. We can mention as follows. For example, the Cyprus banking system made a quick and effective recovery from the initial shock, as well as the revocation of the restrictions. In addition, clients returned to Cyprus banks due to the system recovery and substantial benefits of using local banks. So here is the list of the majority of banks in Cyprus, which Eltoma Corporate Services collaborate with. At our company, it is essential for us to have different banks for our clients to select, which meet their individual needs. So we offer some local banks such as Bank of Cyprus, Hellenic Bank, CDB Bank, some Greek banks as Eurobank, EFG, Piraeus Bank, and Alpha Bank, and some international banks like Barclays Bank plc, Russian Commercial Bank, and some others as well. So as to local banks, there is no requirement for a permanent business location. For example, if to compare with Asian region, I mean Singapore and Hong Kong, your business have to have some strong relations with Asian region. So maybe some partners should have bank accounts in Singapore, in other Asian countries, or their business can be located in this region. So turning back to Cyprus banks, there is for local banks there is a possibility to open an account remotely, as we have discussed with you previously. It takes less time to open a bank account. There are no requirements for annual turnovers and no requirements for amount of transactions. As to international banks, we may emphasize that no international banks were affected by the financial crisis. And as to these banks, often more questions asked when opening a bank account, and they know your client's requirements are more strengthened. And minor international banks could be hindered, for example, in FBME case. So as to local banks, local Cyprus banks, there is a possible delivery of signed original documents after the account opening. So sometimes they can be accepted during negotiations. Turning to the FBME case, following the United States notice issued on 15th of July 2014 regarding suspicion that bank is not in line with anti-money laundering laws, United States has restricted all their operations with FBME. After this, Central Bank has announced that since the 21st of July, they have effectively barred transactions by depositors. So let's review some steps to proceed with your bank account opening application in Cyprus. So bank account opening is possible without visiting Cyprus to send the bank documents. However, you still need to have your official documents verified. It is a requirement to complete the relevant bank account opening applications as well. Opening a bank account may take a few weeks approximately, and corporate information must be disclosed for all individuals at all company levels, including its corporate directors, shareholders, secretaries. So this is why the easiest scheme for any bank is individual natural person scheme instead of non-natural persons, where possible, of course. So here is a summary of the natural individual persons document requirements. So all the documents which are required are to be provided in English usually, and in case of other language used in the document, the certified translation required. So for individual natural persons on the corporate company structure, the following documents must be provided. So for directors, shareholders, and ultimate beneficial owners, there are three like 4 documents to be provided. 2 documents which can prove the identity of the person. Another one document which is required is the proof of address. So, for example, Cyprus banks accept Russian government issued ID with official residential registration, but it has to be translated in English, and it should be notarized. And a signed CV is required as well. As to the authorized person to effect bank transactions, hereinafter we will call it signatory. So 2 documents which may prove the identity of the person, the proof of address, which may be a utility bill, which is not older than 3 months, signed CV, and bank reference letter. Actually, all Cyprus banks request a bank reference letters for all parties in the company structure where the individuals hold an existing bank account. This bank reference letter must include the following. So, first of all, the contact information, a confirmation that the person or persons have an account with the bank and for many years. This must include confirmation that the banking relations has been acceptable without any defaults. Contact information of the bank officer issuing reference and date of issuance. So the procedure is commonplace is common within banks worldwide, actually. Banks reserves it rights to use information from provided bank reference and may contact issuing bank to confirm all details which are stated in the reference letter. So this is not a standard practice for Cyprus banks. However, in some other jurisdictions, it is a compulsory part of compliance procedure. An example of such banks would be banks in Caribbean region. This slide displays the document requirement for corporate entities on a company structure. Where there is a corporate entity as the company director, for example, each person on the corporate entity must disclose all the details and documentation. Passport, proof of address, CVs, bank reference letters. So for non-natural persons or corporate entity schemes, the following documents must be provided. So first of all, certificate of company incorporation, documenting the date of registration and company registration number. Then documents certifying company directorship, shareholder structure, secretary structure, and the current registered address, and the company's memorandum and articles of association. So there must be proof that the company is in good standing, which means that all tax liabilities have been met in order to obtain financing, sell their business, renew licenses, or enter into the other business transactions. So in accordance with the earlier indicated list for natural persons, a certificate of good standing must be provided if the company has been registered prior to the current year. All natural persons indicated on the corporate structure would be required to provide documentation, all the required documentation. And if there are company nominee shareholder, it is a requirement to provide a trust agreement. So in case you are operating with Eltoma Corporate Services for provision of bank account opening services, you would only be required to fill in simplified internal bank account application. Our specialists will take care of appropriate submission of all other numerous bank forms. So each bank would have the accepted verification methods. So the appropriate and easiest for you, the easiest way for you needs to be discussed in person depending on the chosen bank. So the following steps and documents are required to open a bank account remotely. First of all, preparation of an application for opening bank account, verification of directors, secretary, signatures, and bank account signatories as well. Verification of signatures is completed by notary public and apostille by visiting a representative office of the bank where the client resides or through the introducer or an authorized bank agent. Actually, it is important for the bank to understand the company's business model. So how the company makes its revenues. High risk doesn't mean anything bad. For example, if the company is indicated as a high risk client, this doesn't mean anything bad. It's just an indication for a bank that the bank reserves the right to ask for some more additional information or like some more steps to be taken or to satisfy the internal process. For example, a Skype conference call may be required. So further requirements should be complied while opening a bank account remotely. So first, corporate documents, except for Cyprus companies, have to be certified by stamped apostille. Comprehensive description of company business activities required as well. Banks may request proof of business, such as invoices, contracts, company websites, and etc. Banks might reserve the right to conduct a video conference in order to identify a client. And normally, clients with bank accounts opened remotely are considered as high-risk clients, actually. So what are the alternative solutions of bank account opening in Europe? So Cyprus, Latvia, Czech Republic, Switzerland, Austria, Andorra, Liechtenstein. As to the Cyprus, we have reviewed this in details. As to Latvia, it is actually the strongest competitor of Cyprus, as bank account opening is also possible to be handled remotely, under the condition that client meets with the introducee in person. However, as to Latvian bank orientation towards international clients, most banks would have quite a wide network of introducers. But we need to know that Latvia banks would usually imply initial deposits up to 10,000 euro additional fee for bank account opening. So classic offshore companies are less accepted and the trend would only be getting stronger to get rid of such companies. Big advantage is multi-currency accounts, whereas in Cyprus, each currency requires separate accounts. As to Czech Republic, it's a very interesting option as it's not so massively used in the international business. Due to this reason, you won't find such a wide range of banks accepting international clients, and hence bank account opening process can be slower due to internal compliance. List of accepted jurisdictions where a company is registered is usually shorter comparing to Cyprus and Latvia, but here some banks also would allow remote bank account opening with relevant notary or introduces certification. As to Switzerland, Austria, Andorra, and Liechtenstein, this jurisdictions are quite popular destinations for bank options. However, banks here are mostly private and more focused on high net worth individuals, so the amount of initial deposit will be substantial, starting from minimum 300,000 up to millions euro. Also, clients often ask about UK banks, so I shall mention that for non-resident client, it's almost impossible because non-UK residents can only apply to special departments which deal with international business, and here you would also experience requirements for a substantial deposit from 1 million. Sometimes banks actually may reject your bank account application. So here are the reasons for rejection. First of all, it may be the company structure. So companies from an international sanction list, for example, from Iran, North Korea, and etc. If the company having its structure politically exposed persons, or there are some in the company structure, there are some US citizens. So the holders of United States passports may be rejected as well due to Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. Then there may be some cases with the activities of the business. So first of all, unlicensed financial or unregulated companies such as bitcoins, funds, and etc., unless the company is SASIC licensed. Adult content, online gaming, connection with the military industry or army supply, and there may be some other cases. And there may be some additional factors such as anti-offshoreization within the bank and the changes in internal acceptance policies. So as to Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, currently a lot of jurisdictions are treated as having an intergovernmental agreement already in fact, and full list is disclosed on the official United States website. You may find it following the link www.treasury.gov and there you may find the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act archive, and there will be the full list of intergovernmental agreements in effect. So it shall be noted that if your company has license that obtained in non-European Union countries such as Belize, Seychelles, or some others, it will not be accepted. And to summarize the advantages of opening a bank account in Cyprus, there are no requirements for face-to-face meeting with the bank. It is simple procedures to be completed, standard approach to the production of documentation, and relatively quick time frame. So let's overview the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. So actually this law aims to prevent tax evasion by United States citizen or US tax residents through the use of foreign accounts and offshore investments. Under the new law, the requirements of this act, foreign financial institutions should identify those account holders which are US citizens and or legal entities under the control of US citizens, for example, those in which a significant share of capital owned by US citizens. Foreign financial institutions should report to IRS about those individuals, providing information about their assets, income, and turnover during the financial year. United States federal law requires a United States person, including individuals who live outside the United States, to report their financial accounts, which are held outside of the United States, and requires foreign financial institutions to report to the Internal Revenue. This law actually came into force in 2010 and covers all possible entities, including partnerships, companies, trusts, foundations, and individuals. So actually, how this act may affect the banks in Cyprus. This law requires foreign financial institutions to bring internal client acceptance policies in line with regulation in order to identify relevant tax obligations. So currently, Cyprus banks are requesting additional information and implementing new banking forms and declarations. And these declarations are aimed to identify tax classification of the client. So Eltoma Corporate Services assists our clients with preparation and submission of all necessary declarations. So there are two models. The Cyprus has signed the Model 1 IGA, this agreement between the US and the foreign government. Foreign financial institution, in this case it's bank, in a Model 1 IGA jurisdiction performs account reporting to the jurisdiction's government. So it is referred to as a reporting Model 1 foreign financial institutions. As to Model 2 IGA, an agreement between the the US and the foreign government. It is an agreement between the United States and the foreign government, and foreign financial institution, in this case, reports directly to the IRS in accordance with the requirements of the foreign financial institution agreement. As to the automatic exchange of information, this has been developed by OECD with the European Union and is a global common reporting and due diligence standard. So new initiatives require financial institutions to report information on accounts held by all non-domiciled individuals and entities, including foundations and trusts, to the tax administration, which will then be securely transmitted to the account holders' countries of residence once annually. The initiative main objective is to protect the integrity of individual tax systems and try to reduce the number of companies which attempt to reduce the tax burden by using offshore jurisdictions. And actually, banks are obliged to report on this. So the list of countries which undertake first exchanges by 2017 are the list which you may see on the screen, like Anguilla, Argentina, Barbados, Belgium, Bermuda, British Virgin Islands, Bulgaria, Cayman Islands, Colombia, Croatia, Curacao, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Dominica, Estonia, Faroe Islands, Finland, France, Germany, Gibraltar, Greece, Greenland, Guernsey, Hungary, Ireland, India, Ireland, Isle of Man, Italy, Jersey, Korea, Latvia, Liechtenstein, Lithuania, Luxembourg, Malta, Mauritius, Mexico, Montserrat, Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Portugal, Romania, San Marino, Seychelles, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, South Africa, Spain, Sweden, Trinidad and Tobago, Turks and Caicos Islands, United Kingdom, and by 2018, the list you may see on your screen as well. So it's at Albania, Andorra, Australia, Belize, Brazil, Hong Kong, Switzerland, Singapore, Marshall Islands, United Arab Emirates, Uruguay, Turkey, and etc. So talking about opening a bank account in Singapore, there are some positive factors to choose this jurisdiction. So first of all is undisputed strict confidentiality laws. The central bank operates as part of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. Singapore ranks the fourth as a global financial center after New York, London, and Tokyo. The focus is on sufficient liquidity for the smooth operation of the banking system and actively supervises and regulates the banking industry. There has been no negativity at all linked to the breach of client data security, and I'm sure you are aware that this is not the case in many other jurisdictions, such as Switzerland, and as well as numerous rumors for Latvia. So in addition to the previous information, it shall be noted that Singapore has become a regional center for renminbi clearance. Total bank assets grew to $2 trillion United States dollars in 2013 from just 90 billion United States dollars in 1998. Strategic location clients can take advantage of the Asian markets. English is the first language. It is this is highly stable and respected government. Inexpensive bank account to operate, and substantial growth in the bank's assets over a short period of years. And actually, English being the first language in the while opening the Singapore account is a good benefit. It indicates of strict governmental regulations and actually aims to maintain leadership in international financial sector. There are over 200 banks which are registered in Singapore, such as HSBC, Standard Chartered Bank, and others. Limited licenses are issued for foreign banks. Branches are opened for business on Saturdays. Bank transfers are fast and actually reasonably priced, and on rare occasions, transactions are placed on hold until supporting documentation is provided. So the summary of advantages of collaborating with Singaporean banks are as follows. First of all, there will be bank options to suit clients' individual needs, Saturday working operations, inexpensive and fast bank transfers, strict confidentiality laws, and high liquidity. Actually, we should stress that there will be challenges to overcome linked to opening a bank account in Singapore. It's not an easy, straightforward process, and we'll discuss how we work at overcoming this. So some of the information detailed on the slide may not be a challenge for the client, and for example, traveling to Singapore, this may be a current and regular activity for a client. So first, client must travel to Singapore to meet with the banks. Singaporean banks are not in any urgent need for new client accounts due to the increase in popularity of transferring funds from European accounts. Business models must be transparent, and first impressions are very important during bank meetings. There should be direct business links with Asia. Actually, banks have strict requirements for the minimum number of transactions. You have to correlate with the initially stated expectations as per the bank applications. High turnover expectations, highly detailed expectation of business description, requirement to speak in English, response to bank's query expected within 24 hours. Banks often call the client to confirm transactions, especially during the beginning of work. So it's important at Eltoma that choices are available for our clients linked to their banking requirements. So we work with a substantial number of banks, and we may highlight some key points of this. So OCBC Bank, for example, offers Islamic bank accounts facilities. There is a requirement for initial deposit amounts, minimum monthly balances, and account opening charge. No maximum for daily transactions. Full internet access, manual in English, on website to assist in setting up and operating, for example. Trade finance only to customers that have been banking with OCBC for at least 2 years. 3,000 Singapore dollars or 500 American dollars initially deposit, so no account opening fee. Monthly minimum account balance is 3,000 Singaporean dollars or 500 American dollars. It needs to be noted that bank account requirements are rapidly changing, actually, and for a few years ago, we could have bank account being opened remotely. But current updates from OCBC Bank changing, so it can't be opened remotely now. So it's challenging to apply for Russian and Ukrainian nationals. Sometimes maybe some difficulties, and it's better to have local signatory on the account to succeed with an application. As to the DBS Bank, it is recognized for its long-term credit worthiness. There are some telephone banking, ATM card, internet banking, and corporate debit card facilities. Credit cards are available only for Singaporean companies. Also, there is a requirement for initial deposit amounts, minimum monthly balances, and account opening charges. There is no maximum amount set for daily transactions. Full internet access in English to assist in setting up and operating. Trade finance is available as a product subject to its credit criteria and its terms and conditions. One of the basic requirements is at least 2 years audited accounts. Only cover if required. As to the UOB Bank, this bank is committed to providing quality products and excellent customer service. It has a well-established regional presence, actually, as it was founded in 1935. It has full internet access. Actually, that are the benefits of these banks, of these local banks. As to the international banks, Standard Chartered Bank In this bank, there is a requirement for initial deposit amounts, minimum monthly balances, and account opening charge. Where account falls below minimum average amounts, fee of 120 Singaporean dollars or hundreds of American dollars are required every month. Clients must be able to speak English. They do not accept the use of a translator. There is a full internet access as well. As to ANZ Bank, the bank's history dated back over 175 years. There is a requirement in this bank for initial deposit amounts, minimum monthly balances, and account opening charge. Annual fees are reviewed linked to business transactional volume, and to minimize where possible, it is the annual fees are actually reviewed case by case. It has full internet access, no maximum limit for daily transactions over certain limits. If there are some limits and you exceeded it, a bank may call to verify. And trade finance is available actually, but again, the bank will review case by case. Actually, there is a requirement for initial deposit of 25,000 of Singaporean dollars to be placed once account is opened. So, opening bank account cost will be deducted from this. As to Julius Bayer Bank, this account in this bank can be opened without presence. Luxury brand with additional facilities available, access to your relationship manager 24 hours, 7 days a week, multiple currencies available, and American Express cards, and personal tailored services. But initial deposit is 1 million, or alternatively needs to see potential to have these within the year. Where there is no activity in the account during the year and the balance is below 1 million, and the bank will look at closing this account. As requirements for bank account opening, first of all, face-to-face meeting with the bank in Singapore, company website, and websites of business partners. All Singaporean banks have strong due diligence policies and process. Initial deposit requirements range from 1,000 to 75,000 Singaporean dollars. Account opening costs range from 0 to 3,000 Singaporean dollars, and minimum monthly balance requirements range from 8,000 to 50,000 Singaporean dollars, where account falls below. If the accounts fall below, there will be a monthly charge imposed. So minimum average amounts fees range from 25 to 120 Singaporean dollars monthly. Initial deposit required in each currency account which is open. It is important for initial funds to come from a declared transferable source. Banks require from 3 weeks to 6 months for opening accounts for international clients. It takes 30 minutes for a Singaporean to open for Singaporeans to open a bank account. If you have bank account in 3 currencies, USD, Euro, Singaporean dollars, deposit requirements will apply to all three accounts. So clients shall be able to explain at all times source of incoming funds and support these information by documents. Bank account application process is not so fast and not so easy, so you need to be patient with this matter. As to world regulations changes, the compliance review and the regulations within the banks only expands. And as for now, we require at least 2 weeks prior your bank appointment in order to get prepared. Talking about the adding, changing, or removing the signatory, there are some forms for this to be completed. Current directors and signatories are required to sign these forms, and it's normally these will normally take from 5 to 10 working days to take into effect. As to the activation of a bank security token, it usually takes longer as it requires an acknowledgement form signing and returning to a bank. And if previous signatory is removed, for example, a change in company contact details is also required. So as in our earlier example regarding OCBC bank account, it may soon become compulsory requirement to have local person as authorized user in the account. So in this case, it is very important to understand and distinguish different types of authorized persons' rights over the bank account. So let me explain further. So there are two different elements in the management of a bank account. First, rights to manage a bank account and rights to manage funds of an account. So proper combination of the above mentioned elements mitigate the risk of using a nominee director by limiting access to funds of a bank account and limiting the power of nominee director to change a signatory. So rights of nominee directors over bank accounts are quite limited. So rights to manage a bank account means closing of an account, removal of existing and adding new signatory, change of company contact details, and request to disclose information to auditors, and etc. As to the rights to manage funds of an account means over the counter transactions, signing of checks, internet transfer funds, and that's it. So let's turn our focus to opening a bank account in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong as to I'm sorry, can you see the screen well? Because I'm not sure that the video is okay here. Okay. Okay, thanks. Talking about Hong Kong, it's one of the world's leading financial centers. It has strong compliance regulation requirements for the opening a bank account. There are some world leading banks present in this jurisdiction, and in addition, there are some local and Chinese banks. So let's move to bank account opening in this jurisdiction. As to the British banks, there are HSBC and Standard Chartered Bank are almost amongst the most popular between the foreign nationals. Um, Local and Chinese banks actually do not open bank accounts for foreign nationals, and unfortunately now it is almost impossible to open a bank account for citizens from Eastern Europe, although for citizens from Western European countries, um, although for the citizens from Western European countries, such possibilities exist. Um, and Hong Kong banks regularly close accounts where they consider that there has been non-compliance with regulations. Similar to Singapore, Hong Kong does have strict due diligence and regulation. Due to some governmental regulation and control, it's very hard to be successful in opening a bank account for Eastern Union citizens. So Hong Kong banks are looking for bank account holders to have a present in Hong Kong, established offices and real businesses run in Hong Kong. So the banks during the account application process will request the documentation evidence to support the application. However, the account opening process is similar to the Singapore account opening process. So the account opening process will have to follow the bank account opening process. The client should travel to Hong Kong for an appointment. The client should present proof of business in Hong Kong, and language and culture can make it rather challenging to successfully complete any amendments once an account is established. So, and actually, sometimes it's difficult to get an advice via telephone with banks in Hong Kong. So this is current fundamental differences between Singapore, Hong Kong, and Hong Kong bank account opening. So Singapore allows any Asia connection, and while Hong Kong require only connection to local markets, to Hong Kong market. So now your client procedure has several levels. First, using known database, national country database, and world check and international databases, including information exchange with relevant international authorities. Banks have access to world check to cross-check applicants to establish any criminal background. And actually, all international clients are considered high-risk clients. Banks can also make an inquiry to a company registry to verify existence of a legal entity to a relevant authority in a client's I'm sorry. So banks can make an inquiry to a company registry to verify existence of a legal entity to a relevant authority in a client's country of residence. And banks are also researching some information about the company's directors and shareholders online. So if there are any doubts, banks will refuse to open the account. So we are living in a very open internet network allowing to obtain massive amount of information. So banks do not forget to use this tool. Such popular social networks as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter are being cross-checked to verify your information, providing your CV, business profile, and etc. Banks are even checking the correlation of indicated work experience. So bank account questionnaire usually contain the following questions. So First of all, it tends to collect all the necessary information, establish the client's banking requirements, obtain the company's business model as described in terms of customer segment, value proposition, channels, customer relationship, revenue streams, key resources, key activities, key partnerships, cost structure. As to completing the process, we will best prepare our clients for the bank account applications and bank appointment. By this, we must identify what are the client's actual bank account needs and what bank account facilities are required by the client. What is as to the company's business model, we should know how the company makes its revenue, what are further business objectives to be achieved, what are the marketing things used to promote the company's business, and how the clients, are obtained from which countries, and so on and so forth. So, while organizing bank appointments, initial contacts with the most appropriate banks are to be established, and the prior date and time for the appointment is to be established as well. It is usually recommended to meet with a minimum of two or three banks to assist in order to achieve a successful outcome. At this time, the banks involved will be supplied with all relevant material regarding the relevant company. So we always recommend that the client meets with a minimum of 2-3 banks to assist in achieving a successful outcome. So the client has traveled sometimes for a far distance, and at a cost both financially and time-wise, and our only objective is to achieve a success outcome from the bank account application. Hence, it is wise to visit more than one bank at a time. So, using our experience, we prepare and present to the bank prior to the bank appointment a detailed summary of the proposed application. We submit customized business model to the bank summary. So the application summary document has the detailed description of the company's business model, expected banking activities, number of monthly transactions, monthly turnover, the sources of funds, how and where the funds are transferred to, and etc. In addition, it contains business profile, CV of the ultimate beneficial owners, clarification on source of wealth, and etc. So we meet with the client prior to the bank appointment to prepare them for the type of questions they may be asked, ensure that they understand their business model, and we strongly recommend and advise that a member of our team attends the bank appointments as well. Client preparation for appointment are as follows. We meet with the client prior to the bank appointment to ensure all documents are fully and accurately prepared. The client is assisted in identifying what areas are to be discussed in details, what areas are not so important to discuss. It is recommended that a member, as I have previously said, the member of our team accompany the client to the bank appointments, and the translation services can also be organized if it is required. As to the bank follow-ups, the bank reserves the right to request any additional documentation, supply any additional information documentation as requested by the banks is required. We should ensure a decision is received for each bank involved, and timescale involved can range from 2 to 12 weeks. So any client support is highly recommended. Actually, what can be the reasons for delaying in bank account opening? So first of all, it's incomplete business documentation, including details of directors and shareholders. Then lacking of proof of business, existing business, invoices, contracts, and etc. Expected high turnover, where bank account and company are located in different jurisdictions, for example. So there may be some delay in this. So bank secrecy is, as bank secrecy is one of the key concerns of our clients, we'd like to remind you that there is no magic or perfect combination, like easier remote bank account opening plus cheap services and 100% guarantee of confidentiality. So you need to remember always, you need to remember that combination of key features important for you is approximately 50 member states of the OECD, representing 80% of the world economy, has agreed to lift up bank secrecy in an event involving tax fraud or evasion. Banks will provide information about an account directly to a national tax authority on request without informing the taxpayer in certain cases. The client is responsible for maintaining the bank account. The initial deposit must come from the declared source within a week or two from the account open date. Email address must be valid. Telephone number must be active. A quick response to all bank inquiries is advised. Account turnover has to be similar to the declared amount during the opening process. One of the first important steps when the company bank account application has been successful is to not delay in placing the initial deposit. Otherwise, difficulties may arise. The bank will be monitoring the transactions at all times, hence requirements to be consistent with declared turnovers. When not the case, the client must notify the bank. So also the client needs to be aware of potential bank calls at unusual times. Singaporean banks, for example, do not necessarily take notice of times differences. And we work with the clients after the bank account is opened to assist with, for example, establishing their internet banking. Actually, it is still a case that banks are closing Hong Kong bank accounts massively. They carefully review each client's operations and activities. So banks do not wish to have dormant accounts where the account is not active. Banks look to close them down, normally given a reasonable period of notice. So banks also do not wish to have accounts where it has overdrawn amounts linked to bank charges, only representing the account actively. Change of structure is not a problem in itself. It needs to be declared to the bank and supported by documents. While changing structure changing structure, just remember about some risk factors such as sanctioned countries, FATCA implications, and etc. We offer the service for acting as an intermediary for any bank contact. So bank call to the Eltoma Corporate Services Singaporean office. Our Singaporean office sends emails or calls a client regarding back phone call inquiry, and there are a number of services which we offer to the client once he is successful with the bank account opening, tailoring these services to the client's needs. Eltoma Corporate Services can act as well as a secondary signatory for an account. Online preparation of bank payments, order based on a client's instructions. Also, client must then approve the payment online. We always care for our clients, so being assured that each transaction is carefully entered, and client always has the final verification right to ensure that all is accordance with instructions provided. Voluntary closing of accounts. Like there are some set procedure for each bank, as each bank has its own regulations and procedures. Normally, the procedure involves a copy of the company resolution confirming the closure of said account with the completion of relevant bank accounts. The reason must be clear, whether the intention are linked to choosing another bank supporting the company or the company's case operations. What are the possible actually questions with this regards? So first, how successful are bank accounts application for Singapore? For example, at our company, Eltoma Corporate Services, we have many success stories. It is important to note it is not a quick process. Time and detailed information is required. So what are the, for example, what are the key elements for Hong Kong bank account opening? Please know that almost all banks need to see an actual presence in Hong Kong. And one more frequently asked question is, do certain banks only interested in certain banks activities, in certain business activities? I'm sorry. So yes, some banks are staffed to certain limits to deal with, and who specialize in accepting and monitoring certain business activities and will avoid certain business activities as they do not have an experience with these activities or don't wish to develop this area, for example. So that's it for this webinar today. Kindly note that due to the ever-increasing importance of CFC regulations for business-related purposes in Cyprus, we have identified how we can help, and we have expanded our services portfolio into property. We have a number of unique properties on the market in Cyprus for investment opportunities. Should you wish to find out more about any of the properties on screen, you can do so by entering your email address in the chat box on screen, and one of our property agents will revert to you shortly. Alternatively, you can visit www.eltomaproperty.com. To receive actual schedule, to request to reschedule a webinar or to buy a presentation, please follow the link you see on your screens or see events and webinars section on our website. On the screen now you may see the whole list of services which are provided by Eltoma Corporate Services. It's registration and maintenance of the company's creation and restructuring of the international holding structures, immigration services, accounting audit, preparation of the financial reporting, international tax planning, opening corporate bank accounts, legal services, assistance in receiving licenses and registration of the trademarks, holding seminars and webinars. So these are our contact information. Please do not hesitate to contact us if necessary. Thank you for today's. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the webinar. Hope to see you soon. Goodbye.